For decades after World War II, Europe appeared to be rebuilding in peace. Cities were rising from the rubble, governments were forming, and the continent was embracing democracy. But beneath this fragile tranquility, a hidden network was being forged, an army that existed in the shadows, untold, unknown, and entirely secret. Its mission was extraordinary, its methods controversial, and its presence would remain a secret for decades. This is the story of Operation Gladio, NATO's covert program to maintain secret stubby-hand armies across Western Europe. These forces were intended to resist Soviet invasion, conduct sabotage, and protect the continent from communist takeover. In this video, we're going to uncover how these shadow armies operated, the dangers they posed, and the shocking revelations that exposed their existence to the world. So, let's start. The roots of Gladio go back to the end of World War II. Europe was fractured, weakened, and vulnerable. The Soviet Union, with its vast army and expanding influence, loomed over the East. Western nations feared that even a slow infiltration by communists could destroy the fragile democracies being rebuilt. NATO and the CIA conceived a plan: prepare secret armies that could operate behind enemy lines, ready to resist, sabotage, and disrupt in the event of a Soviet invasion. These were not ordinary military units. Gladio operatives were civilians, soldiers, and trained secret agents, hidden within society, with no public identity. They stockpiled weapons in secret caches, set up communication networks, and trained in clandestine tactics. If the Soviets marched into Western Europe, these invisible armies would emerge from the shadows to fight guerrilla wars, disrupt supply lines, and maintain resistance long after conventional armies had fallen. The network extended across Italy, Belgium, France, Germany, and other nations. Each country managed its own Gladio cells, often with CIA and NATO oversight. They operated in secrecy, unknown to their own governments, and almost entirely unaccountable. Some cells even maintained ties to far-right political groups, creating a murky mix of military preparedness and political intrigue. The secrecy surrounding Gladio was absolute. Very few outside NATO knew it existed. Weapons, explosives, and intelligence were hidden in remote forests, abandoned buildings, and underground tunnels. Training exercises were conducted in the dead of night. Operatives learned guerrilla tactics, counterintelligence methods, and sabotage techniques. They were prepared for scenarios most citizens could barely imagine. An occupied Europe where conventional armies had failed, and survival depended on secrecy, speed, and deadly precision. But Gladio was not without controversy. Allegations surfaced that some units had been involved in illegal activities during peacetime bombing, assassinations, and political manipulations to maintain influence against communist parties. The line between defense and domestic politics blurred. Investigations suggested that certain terrorist acts were linked to Gladio cells, intended to create fear, destabilize governments, and justify authoritarian measures, all under the cover of anti-communism. In Italy, Gladio's existence became a national scandal in the 1990s. Parliament inquiries revealed decades of secret operations, hidden weapons, and undisclosed alliances. Politicians, journalists, and the public were stunned to learn that NATO and their own intelligence agencies had maintained parallel armies, operating beyond democratic oversight. The revelations sparked debates about sovereignty, accountability, and the dangerous potential of secret networks within a democratic society. Despite the controversy, supporters argued that Gladio had been necessary. The Cold War was unpredictable and dangerous, and the threat of Soviet occupation real. By maintaining secret armies, NATO ensured a last line of defense, a network ready to act if conventional forces failed. Gladio operatives were trained, disciplined, and committed to defending Europe, even if their methods remained hidden from public scrutiny. The scope of Operation Gladio was remarkable. Estimates suggest thousands of operatives were involved, armed with weapons caches designed to last years. Communications networks were sophisticated, allowing coordination across regions without detection. Cells were compartmentalized, meaning most operatives knew little about the broader network, a security measure that ensured secrecy even if individuals were compromised. It was, in essence, a hidden continent of resistance, existing in plain sight. The exposure of Gladio forced NATO and European governments to confront a difficult reality. Democracy had been protected by secrecy, but secrecy carried its own dangers. Who watches the watchers? When defense strategies operate outside public knowledge, accountability is fragile, and the potential for abuse is high. Gladio illustrated how the very systems designed to protect freedom could create shadow powers with almost unlimited influence. Revelations about Gladio also raise questions about Cold War-era strategy of tension tactics. Some analysts suggested that bombings and unrest attributed to left-wing extremists may have been conducted by operatives or their allies to manipulate public opinion and political outcomes. Whether true or not, the suspicions alone cast a long shadow over NATO's clandestine activities, highlighting the blurred line between defense, espionage, and political interference. The legacy of Gladio is both fascinating and unsettling. It reveals the lengths to which nations will go to prepare for worst-case scenarios, and the moral ambiguities inherent in covert operations. Secret armies, hidden weapons, and unseen agents may protect societies, but they also carry enormous risks. The existence of Gladio reminds us that in the world of intelligence and military strategy, what is hidden can be as influential as what is visible. Even today, Gladio's story resonates. It serves as a cautionary tale about the power of secrecy, the limits of oversight, and the hidden networks that can shape politics and society without public knowledge. Europe may appear peaceful and democratic on the surface, but Operation Gladio proves that beneath even the calmest societies, shadows of preparation, paranoia, and clandestine strategy can run deep. Gladio's revelation forced nations to rethink intelligence oversight, civilian control of the military, and the ethical limits of clandestine operations. Parliaments introduced reforms, oversight committees were established, and secret armies were officially disbanded. Yet questions remain. How many covert networks operate today, unseen by citizens, ready to act in times of crisis? And what safeguards exist to prevent those networks from being misused? Operation Gladio is a story of vigilance and caution. It shows the ingenuity of NATO in preparing for a Soviet threat, but also the dangers of unchecked secrecy. It demonstrates that even democratic societies may create shadow powers, networks beyond accountability, and armies that operate in silence. And it leaves us with a final, chilling thought. The most powerful forces in history are sometimes the ones the public never sees, working quietly behind the curtain, shaping events from the shadows. As Europe rebuilt after the devastation of war, citizens thought they were safe. They thought the democratic institutions they trusted would shield them. But Gladio proves that freedom can be protected and threatened at the same time, sometimes by the very governments that claim to uphold it. The line between defense and manipulation is thin, and history has shown that shadows can be both saviors and predators. And the final question lingers. In the quiet corridors of intelligence agencies today, how many Gladio-like networks remain hidden, waiting for the call to act, silent and invisible, shaping the future from the shadows?